Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of the Open Shelf. This is Mehdi and Tobias in the call with me. We are going to discuss about building small businesses in this episode. But before we jump into this topic, uh, Tobias, how's everything going on with you nowadays?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks, Mehdi. I'm just back from a long vacation in Spain. So back in cold Sweden now to back at work. So, but I'm quite excited about this year. So I'm all good with that, leaving the warmth behind and embracing the cold here. That's good. How about you? All good over there?
Great. Berlin also is becoming a little bit cold. We had a bit of snow, nothing close to Stockholm, but yeah, it's getting cold here as well. Yeah, it's nice. It's so far so good things from my end as well.
Nice. I think I've only been in Berlin in the summer actually. No, actually I've been there once in the winter as well for a Christmas market. That was nice.
Yeah,
I'm
their
a
Christmas market
huge
is
fan of
really
Berlin.
nice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So in the intro, it just hit me now that you said Tobias, and I usually say Mehdi, but you pronounce your name differently, and I pronounce my name differently. So it's one of these things that I think is interesting. I once had I was living in Scotland for a while, and some person asked me like what my name was. So I said, my name is Tobias, and he was rubbing his chin like, what? My name is Tobias, and he didn't understand. And after a while, he's like, Tobias, like he was correcting me on my own name. That was funny. But
Yes, it's
so how do
it
you
is
pronounce your name? Because I
quite
think I had.
interesting that different names, different part of the word pronounced differently, and you are really knowing the name, but by that pronunciation that
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know it, and
Yeah.
changing it is a little bit difficult.
Yeah,
Like
so for
my
example, in English now, so I used to live in Barcelona, so that is
Mhm.
how I say Barcelona now in English, whereas in most English people they say Barcelona, but in Swedish I pronounce it Barcelona. So it's funny like how you learn one name in one language that sticks with you for some reason. So
Exactly, yeah, that is absolutely interesting. My name, like pronounced Mehdi, it's that
it
is
sounded differently when you said it. I was like, oh my god, I've been pronouncing it
this is
wrong all
Mehdi.
these years.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So Mehdi, that's it.
yep.
Okay, good. Okay, but that's not why
Alrighty.
we're here today, is it?
Yes, let's discuss a lot regarding this book called Imeth. Imeth is really interesting book and bestseller for quite a long time. This is about a person that spent a couple of decades on why some small business doesn't work, and he go through those nitty-gritty details and study several businesses to figure out why it doesn't work and how it can make it work. I find this book really interesting, and I find a lot of principle that they discuss this book that make perfect sense.
Yeah.
Uh, how was
It's
your
one of
take on the book?
no, it's one of these classics that keeps popping up in this world of literature, and I've been meaning to read it for many years, and now that I've read it, so I read it this summer. I wish that I read it, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, because it would help me avoid so many mistakes that I've committed myself trying to build different businesses. Because I've built, I think it's 5 businesses now over this year. And I think most of them, like the biggest mistakes in them, have been addressed by this book. So it's a really good one to read if you want to build a sustainable business.
Exactly. And of course, when you have been in that area, you can like look at it in hindsight and say, "Wow, this make
Yeah,
perfect sense."
yeah,
And it also in the book mentioned about this Chinese proverb, uh, "I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand."
yeah,
And
yeah.
this is something that by doing at the end of the day, it's something that you really can correlate and resonate with this kind of concept.
Yeah, for sure. So taking a step back to just give the high level overview of what the book is about. If I were to summarize it, is that So the E-myth is about the myth that most people who go into business to start a small business is an entrepreneur. So that's the entrepreneur myth. That's the title of the book. Whereas he argues then that most people who start a business are not actually entrepreneurs. They are just creating a new kind of job for themselves with the worst kind of boss that they have, and usually worse pay than they were off before. And he explains this by way of breaking it down into that businesses require 3 different roles, roughly speaking. So you have the technician, you have the manager, and you have the entrepreneur. And usually people are technicians going into it. So think a plumber who works for a boss and decides to, no, I'm not gonna spend all my time to make this guy rich. I'm gonna start my own business doing plumbing on my own. Or in my own case, I don't want to work at a web agency to make these owners rich off of my work. I want to start my own web agency or start to do consultancy or whatever. So I, as a programmer or developer, I start my own business. So that would be the technician. But then you need some kind of entrepreneurial vision to create a system that is more sustainable. And I think that's where we're gonna be the bulk of this discussion, I suspect. So the entrepreneurial role is about building a system that is sustainable, that creates value, that has a good scale or leverage in it. And then you have the manager that just makes sure that the operations are running smoothly. So, and you need all 3 roles, whereas most people go into it with just one role, the technician. And subsequently, it does not work very well. And that has been my experience in many cases.
Yep.
Would you say that's a fair description of the book?
Of course, that is something that it was my take from this book as well. I also find a statistic that discussed in this book quite mind-blowing. He was mentioning over a million entrepreneur or a small business in US start every year.
Right,
and
yeah.
Out of this, more than 40%, they cannot even finish the first year. And by first 5 years, 80% of them, they close down. And in the second 5 years, 80% of the remaining will close down. And he was saying that there are some mistakes that is common between all of them, because he have studied these small businesses and see what's going wrong for a couple of decades. And the example also that he provides within this book, I find it really, really interesting, because he tried to simplify it as much as possible. And by this simplification, he make a complex topic quite easy to understand.
Yeah.
Like the way that he bring this entrepreneur side, manager side, and technician side into the picture and articulate it in different manner. And one of the examples that he was saying, he's an entrepreneur, mostly he's in the future. Manager is mainly on the past, like he tried to see what went wrong, try to fix things, and technician is always in the present. He just want to do the things that he know how to do best.
Yeah.
And he was saying that there was some difference over here, that the difference between the person that come and start the business and the technician that know how to do the work. And sometimes knowing how to do the work is become liability rather than asset over here. Why?
Yeah.
Because you only know how to do this, and you don't know several other stuff that the business need. And you only focus on the technician part, and all the managerial and entrepreneur side, it's like lagging behind. And it's one of the main pitfall for small businesses that they cannot sustain.
Yeah, no, totally. And so going back to my examples then, or my own failures, which I try to learn as much as possible from my failures, which is good because I make a lot of them. And I once, a couple of years ago, 5-6 years ago, I started a business doing online nutrition coaching. specifically for vegans, so to help people get into shape and get strong and fit. And I was quite good at the coaching, but then I didn't really build a system around it. So it was all ad hoc. Like I would wake up one morning and I had an email for someone, I would jump on a call, and then I would, do something else. And the marketing was just, I felt like writing about some specific topic, some kind of amino acid, and I would dive into that and write about that without really thinking about like the end the recipient of this. So everything was quite disjointed. It was just, me being a technician. I really was interested in nutrition. So then when I was trying to scale it up and build an actual business of it, the foundation was not there to build upon. So yeah, it did not work at all. If I had done it with this book instead, what I would have done is to, well, we can go into this next actually, because he talks about this idea of building a blueprint for your business, and how his quote, I have it here, is that the true product of a business is not what it sells, but how it sells it. The true product of a business is the business itself. So he spends a lot of time, Michael Gerber, to discuss about how to break your business down into a system, and then getting that system onto paper, so that you can actually define, you're forced to define how things are supposed to work, and then you get a chance to actually optimize it as well. So what I would have done is to set up a process for how to onboard new clients, how to do marketing on a weekly basis, how to check in with clients continuously, and so on and so forth. And so when it was time for me to hire a marketing person or another coach to help me out, I would just say, here's a blueprint, here's how you do it. Just follow the script and you're good. And then they would find pitfalls, and we would optimize it and tweak it over time. But not having that in place makes everything so much harder. So that was a big thing that I could have saved me a lot of headache, I think.
Yep, totally understand, and I agree on that. Like the stages that he mentioned within the book was infancy, adolescence, and maturity.
Right.
The small businesses might survive in infancy level, but when they want to start growing up and bringing people into the picture to do the job, if they don't have the blueprint that you mentioned, they're going to be in trouble.
Yep.
And they never get to the maturity, because in adolescence, they need to know how to build a system, how to work on their business rather than in their business. And he discussed about the differentiation between delegation and abdication. And if you don't know how to build a system, if you don't know how things work and what kind of task you're currently working on, when you bring a new person, you are not delegating because you don't really have the model. You're abdicating. And abdication is a recipe for disaster. Sooner or later, this is going to not work, and you're gonna say, hey, if you need to do the job right, you need to do it yourself, and you come back to your infancy level. Best case scenario, you need to downsize. Worst case scenario, you're out of business.
Yep.
And also in this model, he discussed about franchise, like McDonald's, not because of their quality, but because of their consistency, because of the blueprint that they have in place, and they can replicate what they used to. Whenever you go there, you get what you're expecting. You don't get the best food, you don't get but they meet your expectation. And this consistency also within the business, it means a lot.
That's why we have the Big Mac index. Like, it's a comparable product across, many different nations. Yeah, for sure. And he has a good example in the book about consistency. He has this barber that he tries. And his first visit to the barber, he gets they wash his hair, they give him a back rub, and then they cut his hair, and they bring him a cup of coffee, or, I can't remember all the details, but something like that. And then his next visit, he gets a tea instead, and they don't wash his hair. And then the third one, he does get a washed hair, but the haircut is, a bit off, So it's very inconsistent. So even though he really likes the barber shop, he doesn't go there because he doesn't know what to expect. So then he chooses another business instead. So the consistency is really, really good. That can, in some cases, even trump the quality, which in the case of McDonald's definitely holds true.
Exactly. And also what he mentioned, when you have this system in place, even a person that it's like average within that business, it can drive it because you have the blueprint, you are delegating. You
Yeah.
don't need the best expert in that area to bring it unless it's not gonna work. No, like McDonald's, they create a blueprint that it works no matter what. Like uh, also there is really great book called Built to Last by Jim Collin. He discussed about Jim Collin is a person that he study businesses that they last for decades or centuries, and he want to know what they have in common. And he has several books. Built to Last being the first book that he wrote. Within that book, he discussed about this concept of clock builder rather than time teller, and he's mentioning that within like clock builder they build a system, even the person that create this dynasty, it's not there, it's work just like a clock. People, they can tell the time although he's not around. They build a business, they get out of it, and the business works just like a clock because the system is in place. This is also a really great book that discussed with it, but in the enterprise level, not in startup level, in the enterprise level also. This is a principle that it works over there as well.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And just thinking about the business as a system that takes some input, you have work being done in some way, like to attract customers and then to maybe educate them in some cases, and then to deliver the value to them. And then if you can build a system where your inputs are lower, less than the outputs, so you're creating more value than it costs you, then you have a viable business, basically. And thinking about that makes many things fall into place, I think. It's quite an abstract idea, but I think once you start to see some examples of that in practice, it helps a lot. And
Very true.
you were talking about working on the business versus in the business, and that's a mantra that you keep hearing in this world as well. And for me, so we went with my day job at STIM. So our HR department is really, really good, and they give us a lot of educations as managers to become a better managers. And one education that they gave us was they kept hammering home this, like, you need to set time aside to work on the business, so like work on your team instead of just in the team. And that was really good for me. But this book unlocked a new level for doing exactly that, which is he suggests that you start by building like an organizational chart of your company as it should look when it's done, like the again talking about the blueprint. So at the top you have the CEO, then you might have the CFO, CMO, CTO, and so on. And under those you have maybe a VP of engineering, a director of engineering, you have some staff engineers, and so on and so forth, and down to like the intern level. So you build out the whole organizational chart, and then you jump into the role of CEO and say, okay, so maybe in the beginning you occupy all these roles. You wear a lot of hats as a startup founder. So you jump into, today for this hour I'm going to work in the role of CEO. So as a CEO, what should I demand from my CTO, my CFO, my CMO, or CEO, or whatever. So by working in the business as the CEO, you're working on the business by enabling the roles underneath you in the organization. Because then you jump out of the role as the CEO and you jump in as the role of CTO, and like, okay, so I have this mandate from the CEO, which is myself, that I need to enable whatever business business impact that I want to affect. And then you can work on that. So as the CTO, how can I enable my VP of engineering to do their best job? And then you jump out. So by working in the business, you can work on the business. And that thought was like a key for me that unlocked a new level of how to actually go about working on the business.
Yes, that part attract my attention as well, to how to build the organization chart. And the example also he was mentioning, and the chaos without having this organization chart, and what kind of problem you come across it, not only in the infancy level, it's adolescence level also. You will encounter to this if you don't have this blueprint, if you don't have organization chart. And the way that he was recommending, Be crystal clear regarding your organization chart in case you need to have put a contract, sign a contract yourself that you are doing this job and the job supposed to have the job description. Then when you want to delegate the job, you know exactly what is the requirement. You know what is the expectation. You can set the expectation right. And since you have done it yourself, you can delegate rather than abdicate. That organization chart part, it was really interesting and insightful as well.
Yeah. And so again, speaking of my own failures, of which there are many, I once founded a web agency. So we developed web systems and websites for different companies. So we were 3 founders in this, and then we took on 1 employee and 1 intern. So we were 5 people at the most. But taking on this employee and this intern, it was like as we didn't really think it through. Like we didn't have a blueprint, we didn't have anything ready to give them. We did not define in advance like their role description or anything like that. So they came in and we were like just expecting them to figure out and do, you know, their work as if it was obvious, because for us it was obvious, and I think maybe different strokes for different folks as well. But if we had taken the time just to sit down and think like, okay, what kind of questions will they have? How can we make it more clear what their job description is? It would have been so much easier for them to onboard and also to grow it even further. That was a big mistake. So again, had I read this book, I don't know when we started this, 2009, 2010, 15 years ago, then that would have helped me a lot.
Yeah, and these things are inevitable. There are biases and fallacies that we fall into it if we don't really look at it in perspective. Like there is an interesting book about fallacies and these biases that we have called The Art of Thinking Clearly. And one of the fallacies that they mention is regarding the biases that we have, that we think that since we know it, the other person supposed to know it as well.
Yeah.
And it discuss about it and give a quite interesting example that sometimes because you think that the other person know that as well, and it's called cognitive bias. I really like that book. It shows us a lot of biases and give quite interesting example about
interesting. I love human biases and all the ways that humans suck. I think that's it's very interesting to learn about, but also very empowering, because by knowing your weaknesses you can work around them and you can make up for them in other ways. And in that niche of books, I can definitely recommend The Skeptics Guide to the Universe by Stephen Novella, I think his name is. Also really, really good about how humans' biases and weaknesses, cognitive weaknesses, make us think of make up ghosts and mediums and all these kind of things that we believe, extraterrestrials and everything, that are better explained by other mechanisms. I think that was a really good read as well.
This is really interesting topic. I would love to have one episode dedicated for the biases and fallacies that we have.
That would be cool.
Yeah, for sure we will plan one episode for that. And regarding also building a business development process, one thing that within this book was discussed was innovation, quantification, and orchestration. And also, there was interesting that when he discussed about innovation, he said there is innovation versus creativity. Innovation is think about to do the things, and creativity is do the things to make it done. And it's like bring this example that when you only think about it, it's not good enough. You need to make it happen as well. Then you need to quantify where you want to go, where you're heading, and this quantification helps you to plan accordingly to adjust accordingly. And orchestration is to just ensure that everything that you plan is fall into place. He, of course, go much deep dive in each area and articulate it in much better way. But that part, it was really interesting for me as well.
I had completely forgotten about that, but yeah, that's true. That was a good read. Maybe because it's I don't know, it's that feels like it sounds like second nature to me, but that was a good one as well, for sure.
Yeah, and like small tweaks in your business make huge difference. One of the example that he was mentioning, that whenever you go for shopping, let's say clothes or anything, the salesman come and say, "May I help you?" And the usual answer, "No, I'm just looking at these things." Say, how about you make a small tweak? And this tweak, it's like instead of saying, "May I help you?" say, "Have you been here before?" And you have prepared two separate plan for the people that they are the first timer there and for the people that they are revisiting. And only by doing so, 10 to 16% increase on the rate of the sale. But by only such a small tweak.
Yeah, that's cool.
Only wording. Also, he discussed about coloring, using the color, how could impact your business. Really small tweaks that you feel like they are mundane and don't make much difference. He come and articulate it for you. It make much difference. And
so, if I remember correctly, with that the color, they dressed in different colored suits, right? The
exactly.
So, and then by now everyone knows that you should wear a blue suit, I think it was. But they came to that conclusion by measuring and trying it out. So that's very cool. And I think one good takeaway from the book is that it's only if you have this in paper, or it's only if you have this written down, codified, that we wear blue suits or we wear brown suits or whatever, then you can make a change, you can tweak it in a systematic and structured manner. Because then we can make a change here and we try that out in isolation of everything else, and then we try a change here in the way we greet customers, and we try that out and evaluate it in isolation. So if you want to do it in a structured manner to learn about cause and effect and what actually drives the impact that is important for you, you need to write it down. You need to have it, some kind of shared understanding of this system that you have.
Very true. And you touch on it regarding the commodity versus product. That was something also that I find it quite interesting. He was mentioning like commodity is the things that the customer walk out with it when it's come to your store. But the product is the things about how they feel, and it make a difference. You see, successful businesses, they don't sell commodity, they sell product. Like Amazon, known as really having good customer service. Customer service is the commodity, the product that they have. They sell 1,001, I don't know, millions of product, but their product is feeling you unique, that their customer service is unique. And it's like there is a store of everything that is about Jeff Bezos and how he started Amazon and everything. He's making this customer-oriented value so important that willing to sacrifice millions and billions to stand by what he's really value.
Yeah. Another on that topic, another very famous example is Zappos, of course, and here the delivering happiness. That's a good read, where the customers call in and they don't have the shoes that they want, so Zappos calls up a competitor to order the shoe for them, just to deliver them the value that they want, even if they don't make money from them, or they've been staying on phone calls for hours just to talk out, like being a therapist for the customer that calls in, or ordering the pizza because the customer was hungry, even though they sell shoes. As a cool thing, and being intentional about the value that you're delivering and what our product is. That is key, of course. And I read a book 2 years ago now, Building a Story Brand by Dan Miller, where he takes like a framework from how we write stories. Like you have the hero's journey, and you have many different frameworks for how to break a story down in like a common narrative structure. And he applies that into businesses. So in a business, the main idea from that book is basically that the customer is the hero in their story. Whereas most companies, they make themselves out to be the hero, there to save the customer. But he instead flips that. So the customer is the hero, they have a problem, and you are the guide, like Yoda in Star Wars, there to help the customer, who is the hero, to defeat their enemy and win the prize or whatever. So that was a really good book to read as well, for just shifting that mindset. And that helped me a lot to win a lot of businesses as in my online coaching.
That is absolutely right, and it's like a paradigm shift that how you really look at your business, and knowing there is a differentiation between the product and commodity.
Yep.
And also when you can differentiate this, you can drive your business much more efficiently. And as you mentioned, this is also Delivering Happiness that you mentioned. It's one of my really favorite book, and this is regarding also entrepreneurship. Amazing book, amazing read about Tony Hsieh, that from when he was a kid, all the startup and the business, the ideas that he have, up until he makes Zappos. But before that also he had another business that he sold to Microsoft for 250 million or so. And the reason that he sold it was like the culture that he wanted was not available within that business. He learned from his mistake. And in Zappos also, one of the things that was making Zappos unique, when they used to give a offer to any candidate that they want to hire, they was giving them $4,000 as alternative if they don't accept the offer. So whether this offer or 4,000. And that was a unique part also in Zappos that they discuss about, but it was part of the business to ensure that really qualified people, they come to their business, because these people that are representing the product that they want to sell, and the product was delivering happiness. If it's happiness is the customer is asking you, hey, I'm in this hotel, I don't know how to order the pizza, I'm new in this town. They help to order pizza for him, and they come and they mention it in their book. It was quite interesting.
That's very cool. So going back to the E-Myth, there have two caveats to the book, or two like negative things. One is that, or it's not really a bad thing for the book, but just worth keeping in mind, is that it targets people who has a proven business, like a plumber or a software consultant or whatever. But if you're building a completely new product, trying to disrupt a market or whatever, and there's no competitors or very few, and you haven't really proven the idea or the channels that you're going to use or the whatever, then the book is a little bit less relevant. I still think you should read it, because it will help you build the business once you have proven it. But maybe a better focus then would be to prove your business first. And some examples to prove your business: the mom test. If you're just going to have one book, the mom test or the lean startup. Those two I think are really, really good books to prove your business, giving you a framework for breaking down your value proposition and then testing that value proposition against real clients or real customers. I think that's good. But if you haven't proven your business yet, do that first and then get into the E-Myth. That would be my recommendation. Another negative point in this book is that I think it was at point a little bit woo-woo, or maybe a little bit American, if you know what I mean. So he has this narrative where he's helping a woman she has a pie shop, right?
Yep.
She's selling pies, and she is the typical technician. She's really good at baking pies, but then she does not have a proper business, and he helps her build a business of that. And throughout their journey together, I mean, that way of explaining his ideas is very powerful, because you understand it. But at times it also becomes like, she finally understands his wisdom, and they start breaking down into tears and hugging each other. Like, it's a bit, I don't know. At least for me. And then he makes these references to books, Total Awakening, Tales of Power, which I hadn't heard about them before, but I looked them up, and it's about some magic and some shamanism, and I don't. It's not my cup of tea, at least. So that would be my two caveats for this book. Overall, I think it's a really, really good book, though. So I
He
wish I
discussed
would have read
about
it.
another book also called, what was it? The Man Search for Himself.
Mhm.
I have it in my read list, but I haven't had a chance to go there. And he was really advocating for that book.
Mhm.
Total Recall,
Ah,
I don't remember he referenced it in this book, but I totally agree. It was a little bit exaggeration when it's come to a relationship between this
yeah,
uh, pie, the person that baking pie, and him, and also he tried to make this so personal. But this is one of the technique to make the book more interesting. Like
yeah,
they
for sure.
try to make it a little bit a story type that make it more interesting.
Yeah, and
Uh,
overall, I think that format was beneficial.
Yep,
A lot
but I
beneficial.
totally agree regarding is not really showing up how to uh, build to see whether you have the market for your things that you want to start working on and everything. He didn't really go into nitty-gritty details. He
Mm.
discussed about demographic
Demographic.
regarding
Yeah,
how to see the opportunity, who's your customer, and psychographic, if I'm not mistaken, to
right. Yeah,
see what kind of feeling, why they want to go for your product.
yeah.
And these two, he didn't really spend time on it. As you mentioned, there are other good books that are complementary for those topic.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and those two concepts I think is very powerful here. If you want to find your ideal customers and spend to get as much bang for your buck in terms of marketing, demographics and psychographics, and the two books that I would really recommend to dig into that part and to start a business without reading too much theory is it's a guy called Alex Hormozi, I think his name is. So he came up. He started a gym, and then I think he had a chain of gyms, and he came into that world, and he started doing online coaching and everything. But then he systemized the way he ran his gyms, and then he sold off his gyms, and then now instead he's helping other people run their gyms more efficiently and make more money. And then he's building a product around that, and he basically has a blueprint for how he does that with businesses, which is abstracted away from the gym business, and he goes through his blueprint in this series of books, which is $100 million something. So he started with $100 million offers, and then he has $100 million leads. So the offer part is about how to package your product in a way that delivers value to the end user. Really, really good. And then the other one is about finding leads. And I'm pretty sure that he goes into psychographics in that book as well. So finding customers when they are in the right mode. For say for example, with my coaching business, if I want to help women lose weight, I could target women between 35 and 45 maybe. But if I also target women between 35 and 45 who are going to get married in 3 months, maybe they will be more incentivized to lose weight, for example, or they are about to go on a vacation, or fathers who are males who are about to become dads, maybe they want to get into shape before that, or whatever, to find people when they're in the right mindset as well of just, their demographics. That's a powerful concept.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Also, something that in this book attract my attention when he discussed about accountability, and when you are in the business, at the end of the day, you are accountable for it, and accountability is something that you cannot delegate. This accountability, it's stay with you as a business owner, and you are
Yeah,
accountable for it. And if you try to delegate, accountability also is a recipe for disaster.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And we touched upon that last episode with extreme ownership as well.
Yep.
How that changes everything if you have skin in the game as well. Those like aligning your incentives so that you you are incentivized to do the right thing, basically.
Exactly, exactly. And how about for next episode? Do you have any idea or suggestion what should be?
So I was gonna suggest, see how you feel about that we talk about. So we have talked a lot about the entrepreneurship, like finding systems and finding leverages, and we talked about the technician, the going into the business. We haven't talked that much about the manager. So I was thinking for the next episode, what do you think about talking about either management or maybe more interesting leadership?
Yeah, it's a really great topic. Management and leadership is something that is one of the ingredient for the successful business. I totally agree. It's complementary with this two first episode that we have.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great idea.
Ah, cool. And I have a lot of mistakes that I've done in both management and leadership as well. So I'm happy to share.
Yeah, same here.
That's good. Okay, so we will drop. We'll talk about leadership and management for the next episode. So that will be in a month from when you're listening to this episode, right?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay, cool. So for that, I think we are done for today. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks, everyone. I hope you
Take
enjoy
care.
our episode and looking forward to hear from your feedback. And also, if you are interested to join us as a guest, please reach out.
Good man. Take care, man.
Take care.